I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. So who the heck am I and why am I doing this? Well, I'm an entrepreneur, New York Times bestselling author, rookie researcher, and I'm simply a curious person. I've spent the last 15 years around professional why-notters. This show was created because I believe the world will be a better place if more of us start asking ourselves, why not now? And not just ask the question, but understand how to take action. And we're not talking kittens and unicorns here. You've already done the dreaming. Now it's time for the doing. I know it's not as easy as it sounds. That's why we're going to practice together. Why not now? Let's get after it. Today we have my friend Lewis Howes on the show. He's a former pro athlete, New York Times bestselling author, the School of Greatness podcast host, and he's building an empire. That's all quite fancy, but I think the most impressive things on his resume are that 1, Lewis Howes is the ultimate hustler. You'll often hear me say that your hustle factor can be your biggest differentiating factor, and that's the case here. His drive is off the charts. And number 2, he gives the biggest, longest, most genuine bear hugs. During our chat, Lewis talks about being broke, sleeping on his sister's couch in Ohio, and how he tackled and took action on his why not now. The hard work is paid off. On any given day, you can now find him interviewing Tony Robbins or Larry King. Before we get started, I want to tell you about my partners at Design Pickle. You know when you're in a pickle because you need a design, but you don't have the time or maybe even the skill to do it yourself. Many of us have been there. Design Pickle has been a lifesaver for me. Here's how they're set up. You pay a flat rate monthly fee, and you're given a dedicated designer for all of your needs. You heard that right. Unlimited graphic designs, unlimited requests, and the first 14 days are risk-free. You get a full refund if you cancel in the first 2 weeks. Why Not Now listeners like yourself get 30% off their first month at Design Pickle. You can go to designpickle.com/why not now to redeem the offer. For me, the process has been painless and ego-free. In fact, many of the posts you're seeing on my social media channels were created by my buddies at Design Pickle, specifically Jacob at Design Pickle. That's what's cool, is that you get a dedicated designer. I'm on a first-name basis with my designer. A mentor once said to me, just because you can doesn't always mean you should. Do what you're uniquely qualified to do. Design Pickle helps me do just that. Go to designpickle.com/why not now to redeem the offer. We tackle the most taboo topics on the Why Not Now show. Oftentimes, you're hearing guests share things they've never shared before. In the spirit of things we don't typically talk about, you should know that the Why Not Now show is supported by Poo-Pourri. Yep, the original before you go toilet spray. It's magic. My friends at Poo-Pourri have literally taken the smell out of you-know-what. This pure blend of essential oils stops bathroom odor before it begins. Visit poopourri.com And Why Not Now listeners get 20% off with code Why Not Now. That's all one word. Also, you can now get Poopery at Bed Bath & Beyond. Here's Lewis Howes. Lewis Howes, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thanks, Amy. Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Let's get started. So the show is, of course, Why Not Now? And how I kick off is trying to figure out a moment when you had to ask yourself, why not now? A specific time, a day, an experience where you just knew this is it. I have to make that jump and let's dissect it and talk it through.
Why not now about any situation in my life?
It can be anything. And the goal is to help listeners with their why not now.
For me, I would say the first thing that popped in my mind was decathlon national championships, NCAA national championships in college, 2005, Waverly, Iowa. My dream was to be an All-American and as a football player, and I didn't get it because I got injured my senior year. I ended up going back my fifth year, senior year and making it, but I thought that this was my last chance to be an All-American athlete. It was a dream that I had as a child. And I called my track coach up and I said that I just did track in the off season to kind of train and get faster for football. So I'd do like the high jump and the 100 and the 400 sometimes when I didn't feel like throwing up. And I remember calling her and saying, what's the chance that I could do the decathlon? And you think that I could be, make it in the top and give me a chance of making the All-American team? And she said, there's definitely a chance, but you have to do everything I say from this moment forward for the next 6 months until the national championships. Now, I had taken a year off of track the year prior to go do a study abroad in Hawaii for the spring season. So I didn't even do track the year before. I just got off an injury of breaking 3 ribs playing football. I wasn't even working out for those 3 months during this recovery phase because I couldn't even really run with the pain I was feeling. And I called her. I was in Columbus, Ohio, and I called her, and she said, you just have to do everything I tell you to do from this moment forward if you want to give yourself the chance. Even at that point, there's no guarantee. But I said, okay. She told me there was a chance. So I said, okay, I will do whatever it takes. So I cut out all dessert. I mean, I loved this thing at my school. They have this thing called the Pub, which is like this little restaurant. And there's these pub shakes that are so delicious. Every night I would get a pub shake and just eat lots of candy. And so she's like, you got to cut out pub shakes. You got to cut out this. So I did whatever it took. I mean, I was so committed to training, getting up early every morning, training with the pole vault and learning the new techniques for the hurdles and everything that I hadn't done ever before. I had to learn these skills in the decathlon. Long story short, made it to the national championships. The top 16 in the country qualify. Top 8 are on the national or the All-American team. So I knew I had to get in the top 8. And I remember thinking to myself, why not me? Why not now? Like, now is the time for me to really step up. Like, now is the time for me to go through so much pain and so much stress on my body in order to push myself to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And I think that's something that a lot of people aren't willing to do in any area of their life. It's they're not willing to commit to the amount of pain, the amount of commitment, energy, focus, sacrifice that it takes to achieve the things that we want. So for me, I would say it was that moment, the decathlon, where I remember the last event. It came down to the last event. I was in 9th place. And the mile is the last event, the 1500. It was my weakest event. I'm a sprinter. I'm not a distance guy. And it was 4 laps around the track. And I was just exhausted. It's 2 days, 10 events. I'm exhausted. And this was the moment. It was do I want to give it my all and experience this pain? Or do I just want to get through it and not experience the pain? And I knew exactly who I needed to beat, what time I needed to get, and I was willing to give those 4 minutes and 54 seconds my best and just experience as much pain as possible to achieve my lifelong dream.
So that was your why not now moment, but actually when you started training and you actually asked this coach, this inspiring individual.
Yeah, maybe that was the moment.
Maybe because you probably wouldn't have been able to pull it through at the end there.
But there's probably 6 months of moments saying, okay, well, I need to get up every morning and continue to do this. I don't think it's it's years of time that then there's a moment of like, well, are you going to achieve the dream in this moment or not? And so, yes, the decision to commit to the vision for 6 months and every single day and commit to not eating crap and commit to getting up early and staying later than everyone at the track and all those things. But I think it's a daily process. And then there's moment. Yeah, it's a daily practice. And then there was a moment where it came down to the last moment of like, okay, this is your last event. You either step up in this moment or you don't step up. And so I guess, it's either the moment when you make the decision, but a lot of people make the decision to go for the dream and then they stop. So
sure. And even the moment you had to give up a pub shake, the moment
every moment, every day.
So I guess
every night there's parties that I choose not to go to. Every night when people are drinking and I didn't have a sip of alcohol in college, and all these moments I think add up to that.
Right. So it's kind of that practice and the art of building those muscles. And speaking of intense sporting events, you were just at the Olympics. So tell me about that a little bit. Highlights.
It was incredible. I mean, for me, I play with the USA handball team. We did not qualify. Unfortunately, we are the only sport that the USA did not represent at the Olympics. So it's kind of like a bittersweet because I'm on the Olympic team if we were to qualify, but we didn't qualify. And so I went the month and a half before there was a tournament, the Pan Am Championships in Argentina. So I was down there playing against the best teams from North and South America. And so Brazil and Argentina were both at the Olympics. We got to play against them, and I know those guys. So it was fun to go and watch two teams that I just played against who were competing in the Olympics. And it was fun to just be in the energy and the atmosphere, but also just to know I'm like just a little bit farther away from my dream than I wanted to be.
Well, but you also got to experience the entire journey. And I saw you with Ryan Seacrest, and I saw you talking about, all of the other different sports that you were able to attend and those competitions. What was your favorite?
I mean, my favorite was, I really enjoyed watching Michael Phelps. I mean, to see this guy just be a master for the last 15 years or whatever it is, see him, just everything, the way he walks in, the way he prepares, the way he gets ready for the event was a lot of fun to know that I got to see him in his last Olympics. Yeah, but I saw USA basketball, I saw handball, I saw women's gymnastics was unbelievable. It was the first time I'd ever seen gymnastics live, and I'm like a huge fan of the sport now. So It was all fun.
I wanted to be Mary Lou Retton when I was growing up. So I remember watching her in the Olympics, and that's really what inspired me. It's amazing what it does. So switching gears for a moment, I have a very important question to ask you.
Let's hear it.
So will you be my podcast mentor or my coach?
Sure.
Okay. You're several years into this, and your podcast has been a huge hit. You're ranked high up in iTunes, and I'm looking for a little bit of feedback, a little bit of a coach, because you know what it's like when you share with people and they say, oh yeah, it's good. And it's like, no, help me. Okay. So throughout the conversation, you can blow your whistle at any point and say, okay, all right, listen up here. You shouldn't do that. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
You can totally school me. Speaking of schools, the School of Greatness is your podcast, obviously, and I will make sure to include links to all of your touch points in the show notes. I was thinking about a time when you and I and Ryan Holmes hiked Runyon Canyon. We were at a conference together. I think we had all met right around that time, and we decided to go hiking, and we discussed what we were up to and what we wanted to do and build. Do you remember this?
I remember. I don't remember what I said, but I remember the hike and the run, and I was dying, and you guys beat me.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I was so tired running up there.
You basically, had wanted to build this online empire, and look at what you've done. And so you said you wanted to build this online just powerhouse empire. Ryan was talking about the early days of Hootsuite. Yep. So he was still, obviously in Boca.
He had 200,000 users then, I remember specifically.
Exactly. And he was talking about this awesome, efficient way to use social communication. And so we talked about Hootsuite, which is now a $1 billion company beyond. And those things came through. And I wanted to grow my company. But it was this moment the other day where I was thinking back and I was like, wow, we really went out and did what we said we were going to do on that hike.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But there seems to have been a tipping point for you. So you and I had kept in close touch, I'd say 2008, maybe 2009. And then we kind of lost touch a bit. And the next thing I know, I'm seeing photos of you flying private with Tony Robbins and doing all these things. You launched your New York Times best-selling book. And was there a tipping point for you? Because you've accomplished so much in the last few years.
I still don't feel like has been a tipping point yet. I feel like there's been very steady growth. I've been working really hard since 2009. So a good 7 years I've been showing up consistently every single day. And I look at, when the book came out, there was a surge of exposure. When the first Tony Robbins interview I did, there was a surge of exposure and a bump in traffic and a bump in following and things like that. So there's little mini surges, but there hasn't been like this big event that's been like, I went from however many followers to 100 times more followers or whatever it may be. It's just kind of been like, yeah, I've showed up every single day. I'm like a bulldog. I'm like, I'm not that talented, but I will show up every single day and grow it over time because of my commitment and my commitment to serving one person at a time and then making it two people and whatever it takes to serve more people. And then the goal is that hopefully that audience will spread the message with me and that I don't have to work as hard and it starts to come more efficiently and I can pull levers a little easily. And when I can put, eventually I'll be able to put something out and 100 million people will watch it or see it or be impacted by it. And that's the goal. It's just showing up every single day and building momentum and kind of having that compound interest over time work in my favor.
You're a hustler. I mean, if anyone comes to mind when it comes to hustling, networking, personal branding, but it seems to come natural for you and you have a special charisma. Do you think
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well deserved. Do you think a person can learn charisma? Can it be taught?
Absolutely. Because I didn't have it as a kid. I was the awkward kid. I didn't have any friends. I was sexually abused. My parents went through a divorce. I was always in the bottom 4 of my class because they would rank us on our grade cards and I would always be in the bottom. I couldn't read and write in school. I was just, anytime the teacher would call upon me to read aloud from the book, I would just be terrified. I would have to skip over words because I couldn't read them. And it just made me very insecure in front of other people. So I was the guy who was so afraid to stand up in front of the class of 10 people, let alone give a speech. I could not give a speech. Even until I was about 24, 25 years old, I couldn't give a speech until I said, okay, enough is enough. I'm sick and tired of having this fear and having this consume and control my life and my energy. So I committed myself. And I knew that if I wanted to impact other people, that I needed to be able to connect and communicate my message verbally in order to serve people in any way. I need to be able to communicate. This is one of the most powerful skills that we all need to learn. And I wish I would have done a better job in school. But what I did is I said, okay, you know what? I had some free time after I was playing football because I was injured and just sleeping on my sister's couch. So I had some free time for about 1.5 years, a lot of time. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to Toastmasters. I met with a bunch of successful people in Columbus, Ohio. I just started reaching out to people who are successful and asked them how they got to where they are. That's kind of what I did early on, was just ask questions. And this one mentor, I'll never forget, I was salsa dancing 3 or 4 times a week to learn salsa dancing. Yeah. It's been 10 years since I've been salsa dancing. So I was salsa dancing 3 or 4 times a week because I had all this free time and I was just trying to acquire new skills. And I was trying to get out there and just build. I was trying to overcome every single fear I had. And I was terrified to dance because I didn't want to make girls look bad salsa dancing. I could dance like by myself or whatever, and I didn't care, but dancing with a partner was terrifying. And so I was salsa dancing a few nights a week. And one of the guys I met, I was just like, what do you do? Or, what's your business? And he said he was a speaker. He toured around the country, and he made six figures speaking. And I was like, really? That's fascinating. I just wanted to learn. So I said, can I take you out to coffee or whatever? Really, he took me out to coffee because I couldn't pay for anything at the time. But we went to coffee at the Barnes& and Noble in Columbus, Ohio, Easton Town Village. And sitting there, I was like, okay, how did you become a speaker? How do you make money speaking? Like, that seems fascinating to me. He goes, well, the first thing is you need to master the art of speaking. And I was like, I can barely speak to you one-on-one, like let alone speak in front of a group. And he said, you need to go to Toastmasters. And I'd never heard of Toastmasters before. He said, you got to do this. This is what I did early on, and that's what gave me the skills. And so I just picked things up. I looked at like life after sports as like, these are all coaches teaching me something, and I'm just going to be a sponge, and I'm going to take action, just like I did in the practice field. And I'm going to trust these coaches because they've been successful. So I joined Toastmasters the next week, and every single week for the next year, I showed up and I practiced giving a speech. I practiced standing in front of the room and presenting between 1 minute to 5 minute speeches. And it was terrifying. The first few months, I was terrified. But I was just committed. I was so committed. I was like, I'm going to figure this out one way or another at some point in time, the more I practice. And eventually that gave me skills. I'm not even sure where I was going with this answer, what the original question was, but charisma, kids that learn.
We were talking about charisma, yes.
So I think it is because I don't think I had it. I think I had it in some ways, like one-on-one with people or whatever in high school or something. But I was really insecure, really intimidated by other people and their intelligence. I always thought I was dumb and everyone else was extremely smart. I continued to tell myself over and over, man, I'm not smart, I'm dumb. And that just built insecurities in me. And when I shifted, I think I heard this quote in Toastmasters. Someone said it at some point. And it's something that's resonated with me for the last decade, is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, wow, I have a chance at life because I don't think I'm ever going to be this, one of the smartest people, but I can be one of the people that cares the most, and it shows how much they care. And when I realized like that is actually the key to a fulfilled life, is relationships is the key to a fulfilled life. It's not how much money we acquire, but it's not being the king or queen of diamonds. It's being the king or queen of hearts is the goal.
Ooh,
because so many people are driven to make money. Listen, I'm driven to generate income as well. Like, I like money. It's all good. There's nothing bad with it. But so many people are focused on how they feel based on how much money they have, how much toys they have, how big their house is, how much they acquire. And I interviewed a guy named Donnie Deutsch who had a show called The Big Idea one time. And I think he sold his company for, I don't know, like $50 or $100 million or something big. And he was just like, you can't go to the bank and visit your money every single day. That gets old. You've got to do something meaningful in your life. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You're not going to be fully happy at the end of the day. And so for me, when I really realized that, I was like, wow, it's so true. Like, the key to life is relationships. The key to fulfilling life, a meaningful, rich life. And if you want to be the richest man or woman in the world, don't be the king of diamonds or the queen of diamonds. Be the queen or king of hearts, because that's the ultimate key to living a rich, wealthy life, is through our heart. So when I learned that principle and really started to focus on giving and serving, and that also means giving to myself and being in service to myself and my needs, making sure that my cup is full every single day, I didn't need to be smart. I said, I need to learn skills and, yes, get smarter and do what I need to do, but I need to show people how much I care. And they're not going to care if I have the intelligence or if I know all the answers or whatever, or if I look silly at some point. They're not going to care about that, me messing up all the time, if they know that I care about them and they know that I'm a genuine person. And I think that took the pressure off me. I took the pressure off me of feeling like I had to know all the answers, or I had to be the smart person or whatever. And now I'm happy being like, quote unquote, the dumbest person in the room all the time, because it doesn't matter to me if I know the answers, or if I'm the smartest in a topic, or if I can do math, or if I remember a fact from history. Like, it doesn't matter to me anymore, because I'll just say, I don't know the answer. I'm still going to give the biggest hug. And that's what matters. Like,
You
I'm going to
do
give the biggest hug.
long hugs, big,
And
good hugs.
I'm going to show people I care. And if they're focused on whether I can like do math or something or whatever, then that's not probably the person I want to spend my time with anyways, if they're fixated on how my intelligence level. So for me, I think I just let go of pressure of having to look good or look smart or be right or be perfect. And I think a lot of people are uptight, and that's why they're not charismatic. They don't believe in themselves. They're not aware of their energy or their skills or their lack of skills or whatever. And I think I just have that awareness of who I am and what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and I'm okay with it all.
And that's why you are so successful. I mean, the quote that I will always remember, and it was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson that told me this, but I know it wasn't his quote. He just uses it a lot, and he says, "It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice."
Oh, that's good.
Yes, isn't that good? And that is your special sauce, is caring about people. So I just saw you in Portland not too long ago. We were both speaking at the World Domination Summit, which was incredible. And that hug that you give, whether it's someone that you've just met or it's me who you've known probably for 7-8 years, it's this amazing long hug. And it's funny how physiologically we react to that in such a big way. Your first impression, I was with my friend and you had just met her and she was like, whoa, you had a fan for life. But it was good. Genuine. Yeah, it was genuine. Oxytocin, I guess.
And sometimes that can go against me. It's funny. I was interviewing this woman named Preeta. She's from India. She is the co-founder of One World Academy, where a lot of leaders go to. It's like a meditation retreat center. And she was here. And when I met her, I opened my arms and I like bring people in, and she was kind of like shy. She was like, didn't really hug me. And I was like, oh, maybe I did something like against the culture. And I asked her later, I was like, I apologize if I gave you too big of a hug. She was like, well, it's just not what we do. We don't hug men unless they're in our family. We hug women, but we don't hug men. And I was like, oh, I apologize, And it's like, so I get to be aware of other people, of where they're at as well, and not just force hugs against people's will. So, but she was okay at the end of the day.
It's funny too. That's also something that can evolve over time as people get more used to it. So you talked a little bit about, the experiences you've had as a child. And then also as we look at now, I've seen some of the work you've done to create a space for men to support one another and really have an open conversation about what it means to be masculine and what it doesn't mean, and being vulnerable is okay. And can you talk a little bit more about that, just what you've been doing, but also what you're witnessing as a trend in this world? Because there's so much discussion around female empowerment. I think sometimes we forget that, hey, men really need that support and that empowerment too, and not to play a role or play an act.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I've always been, I teach what I'm learning, because for me, I'm learning things constantly that I need to learn for myself, or that I want to learn, or that I want to master, or that I want to overcome certain challenges. So I learn certain things, I try to master them the best of my ability, and then I try to teach or share what I'm learning in the process. That's why I started the podcast, because I wanted to interview a bunch of people about how they got to where they were, their principles, their mindset, and use it for myself, but also share along the journey. And one of the things over the last few years has really been opening up about the traumas in my life and the pain and, my ego that I've had and all these different things, and just being aware of it and allowing myself to talk about it to my friends and family, and then opening up about it on my podcast, which I wasn't sure I wanted to do, which really, open up about sexual abuse and just other inner demons and inner feelings and thoughts. I didn't think I wanted to do that because I didn't want people to look bad about me or think I was doing it for some certain reason. And then I realized, what? I get to open up and share because I think it's going to serve a lot of people. Even if it upsets a few people, I think it'll serve more people. And the more I've been talking about this, and the more I've been diving into learning about myself and myself as a man, and just any questions or concerns I've had about anything, the more I realize that so many men are suffering. And not only men are suffering, but women are suffering as well, because men haven't open up about their challenges or their feelings, or don't feel like they have a space to be comfortable being vulnerable. And I'm not talking, men don't have to be vulnerable where they're crying or they're so sensitive all the time or things like that, but just having a space where they can express themselves how they want to express themselves in an open, vulnerable, loving way, I think would do wonders in the world when men do that. And so I've just been doing a lot of research. I'm writing a book about masculinity as well, because I feel like when I was able to let go of certain pains and let go of certain stories and let go of feelings, which I'm constantly working on. It's not like I'm healed and solved and, able to, I'm not perfect. I have a lot that I'm working on and a lot that I get to overcome every single day, because triggers come up for me in situations all the time where I'm reactive or defensive or guarded or resentful or frustrated or hurt or whatever. And before, I would just get mad and angry and react and be defensive. And now I may still get mad and angry and react and be defensive, but I'm so aware of it when it happens, and I'm able to shift out of it much more quickly. And so I have not by any means mastered like being this perfect human being, or being like this patient, loving human being every moment of my life. But I feel like I'm getting a lot better of understanding why I react and why I've been reactive in my whole life, and how I can get tools to move through it faster. So my goal is to continue to learn and grow as a man and a human being, and through the process, share what I'm learning with other men on how I can support them in their inner world, in their world with their marriages or girlfriends or partners, in their world with their family, their friends, their bosses, their coworkers, their teams that they're leading, because there's just so much healing that a lot of men could do. And I don't feel like men have the space to talk about it. Women, I feel like there's this constant conversation with women where it's free to share. It's free to talk about the pains and the suffering and the vulnerabilities. There's Oprah and Brene Brown and all, Glennon Doyle Melton and Deepak Chopra that are talking about vulnerability and intimacy and sharing our fears and all these other things. But the men that I grew up with or like, the athlete jock types of the world, will never listen to those women or Deepak Chopra, will never watch the Power of Vulnerability TED Talk, unless they're forced to or something. They're just going to think that, like, what is this crap? What is this BS? Like, who is this feminist Nazi woman or whatever? That's the mentality of a lot of these type of jocks. Not all. There's a lot of sensitive jocks that are open and, all these different things. But that's kind of a mentality of a majority from my personal experience. And there's a disconnect with men and women when men aren't able to express or be open. There's a disconnect. There's a dis-ease in relationships when certain things arise, and men aren't able to flow through the situation with true masculinity, which, in my opinion, masculinity is the ability to be graceful in service in any moments and to live in that service. So it's been an interesting discovery, because it's challenging for me to dive in deeper. It's, scary. There's just a lot that's been coming up, but I think that's why it's going to be even more powerful and impactful, because my vision is that, and my goal is that these men will listen to someone like me. Mm-hmm. That if they're going to listen to anyone on this topic, mm-hmm. it's going to be someone like me, or some big type of jock guy who's achieved some results in life, where they can be like, okay, if this guy's done it, then maybe I can connect with him. So that's my vision and goal, is to look the part, but be able to speak the part that they're not listening to.
It's such important work that you're doing, because there's such a deficit in that mirror role model. And if you had one piece of advice for someone who is struggling with their husband, their boyfriend, kind of opening up, what would it be? How could they help them? What could be something they say
for
or
a
do?
Woman?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's, yeah. I mean, the goal is to really create these tools and a process for women to be able to connect with men when they don't feel like they're open, or they can't talk to them about something, or they just won't talk about it. So I think the first thing is, I mean, I haven't figured out the perfect solution yet. I'm still working on it because we're researching. But I think really it's coming from a place of compassion and not pushing the man to share or not making the man wrong. When you make the man wrong, who's already guarded and defensive or resisting, he's not going to want to talk. He's not going to open up. So you need to be so loving, so supportive, and really acknowledgement. Like acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge. This is the key to connection as well, is acknowledgement. And it's something we don't do enough of, especially with the ones we love the most. Somehow we forget over a year or two, we forget to acknowledge people. We just take them for granted. So really, I notice when I acknowledge my girlfriend, like more and more, things open up. Like she doesn't react to me as much, or there's less conflict. It's just like we have deeper intimacy. So you get to come from a place of love and support. You get to come from a place of acknowledging first, acknowledge something they've done, tell them how proud you are of them. Men want to feel respected. They want to feel acknowledged. They may not say it, but they want that the most. And they don't want to feel judged or made wrong. So if you're making the man wrong in any way, you're probably not going to get them to open up. They're going to be resentful and resistant. So that's the key. It's coming from a very loving, calm space and not pushing.
Solid advice.
Yeah, and I think if you want a man to be vulnerable, you get to be vulnerable first. And if you want a man to be loving, you get to be loving. And it doesn't mean they're going to be vulnerable or loving like instantly, but they're probably not going to be loving or vulnerable if you're the opposite. Mm-hmm. So you get to just be committed to that vision and come from such a loving space.
Good, solid advice. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about, how do you keep your mind healthy? I know how busy you are, and everyone's busy, and that word is not cool at all. It really bugs me. But how do
big things? We're committed to big visions, and we go from one thing to the next. For me, the way I do it is, first, you got to take care of the body as well. If your body is not being taken care of, your mind is going to be lethargic and it's going to be rusty and it's going to be reactive quickly. So some type of physical movement every single day where I'm sweating. I change from season to season. So I may be doing a lot of 3-mile runs in the morning for a few months. I may be lifting, pick up basketball. It all kind of depends on the season, but something where I'm moving, sweating for 30 to 60 minutes a day. For me, that really allows me to have a healthier mind. It's also a way for me to process any emotions that I've gone through, any stresses, any overwhelm. I can process it through my body and get it out. That's one thing. The second thing is, this is through meditation. Whenever I'm meditating on a consistent basis, I feel so calm in the mind or calmer in the mind than I am when I'm not. And it just reinforces it. Like I went off last couple months, I didn't do it as much because I was traveling and I was just, I kind of just go in this zone where I'm like, I'm good. I don't need this right now. And that's like when I need to do it even more, so that I don't fall off track, even just a little bit. I'm still creating the results, that I want, even if I'm not on track mentally or emotionally. But I just feel like this little bit of anxiety inside sometimes, or my heart feels a little tighter in moments. And I'm like, it's because I'm not meditating. I'm not being grounded every single day. And when I had this meditation teacher on the other day on my podcast, it just reminded me. We did a 10-minute meditation grounding beforehand. And I was overwhelmed beforehand. And then during those 10 minutes at the end, I was like, man, I'm so at peace right now. And just 10 minutes a day can really set us up to feeling extraordinary the rest of the day. It's not going to guarantee it, but it's going to give us a lot more relief than not doing it. So for me, working out and that 10-minute meditation is the most powerful thing.
Got it. And I've just started meditating several months into it now, but I think it also gives me a perceived control over my mind. And that's one of the ingredients of happiness. The science of happiness is perceived control. And it's amazing how it's been able to quiet my mind. And as we look at your future, Lewis Howes, and you're writing a book, it sounds like you also have a big event coming up too. So I would definitely want to hear about that. Can you think of something that you've been thinking about doing that you haven't yet, and it's time to get your why not now on?
Couple things. I really want to learn Spanish and go live, but I know that I just know how I work, and that I'm going to need to be somewhere immersed for 4 to 6 months, like fully immersed in the culture. So that's one of my why not nows that I am committed to creating in the next few years. I haven't like set the date yet because there's been so much that's happening that I would really need to like schedule ahead and plan this. But another thing is I wanted to get meditation certified. I want to become like a facilitator of meditation because I feel like once I fully master that, I'll be able to share that tool and that gift with more people and serve more men through the process. I think one of the things that men experience is anger, frustration. They don't feel like they're in control a lot, or they lash out when they're not in control, or they react. And what if they could have that opportunity to shift in any moment with just a 2-minute breathing strategy or technique that could shift the entire conversation? And so for me, I want to continue to master different tools. So I'm going to book a trip here probably in the next week to go to India for 2 weeks to become certified in this style of meditation so that I can, one, use the knowledge and the wisdom in my book for men, but also be able to use it in my workshops or anything I'm doing. I'm going to have that skill. So that's one thing I'm going to do. And then also I think next year I'm going to take 5 days every month for the year. I'm going to work on becoming certified emotional intelligence trainer.
Wow,
because I feel like
that's awesome.
Emotional intelligence is another key to, having great relationships, is understanding ourselves and understanding where other people are coming from and their emotions. And so I want to be an effective facilitator and trainer of that work so that at any moment in time, I can see where people are coming from and I'll know how to be in that moment to get them to shift towards a better solution. That's the goal.
Okay, so you listed 3 things: the learning Spanish,
yes,
being certified in meditation, and also certified in emotional intelligence. So
yes.
I
think
know
2
this.
are going to be next year. Yes.
Yes, and knowing you don't have a huge problem with your why not now. I don't think that it's not that you don't have a problem, but identifying, goal setting, tackling, it doesn't seem to be a huge hurdle. But what is it that you do to decide what comes first? And is there a moment where booking that trip to India, is that going to be the game on moment for you, or kind of the, okay, start your engines time for all of these? Because these are awesome, by the way. And I'm like, me too. I want to do that too. I'm going to India too. What's the greenlit moment for you?
Like when I pull the trigger? Mm-hmm. Or how do I decide? I mean, for me, it's scheduling my time and just figuring like when's the right timing for my schedule where I've got 2 weeks where I don't have anything. So, this event that I've got coming up at the end of September is the big thing that I planned to do this year. And then I was just like, now's the time. If I wait till next year, it's, I'm going to keep putting it off. But I've got the rest of the year where I can kind of schedule this. And I'm also researching a lot for my book. So I feel like, okay, now I can do it and I can justify it for my book as well. And so I'm just going to pull the trigger here. I just started looking at flights yesterday and looking at dates. So it's just going to be pulling the trigger in the next few days and they're just taking the leap. It's kind of like, oh, I'm going to be gone for a few weeks. It's kind of scary. So I got to plan everything. I got to schedule it all. I got to get my team prepared. It's not just me alone anymore. It's like I got a whole team. So just coordinating and organizing, planning, and then delivering.
So a lot of it's time. Were these goals that you set out at the beginning of the year for yourself?
This one, the meditation one, wasn't necessarily like a goal that I had, but I know it's been something that I've been doing for a long time. I've been meditating for a long time, but I've never fully mastered it as I can't teach it. I can kind of try, but I don't understand it fully to be able to sit in a room and teach meditation and understand the science and the practice of it. So it just makes sense. I'm like, if this is something I really want to master, is my emotions and fully understand myself and give myself better tools and skills and continue to learn at the highest level, then why wait? Right, yeah. So it just came to me, like when I interviewed this person, I was like, screw it, I'm going to come.
And that's very interesting. It was a conversation that struck you and it was done.
Yeah, she was like, you should come. I was like, okay, I will. Like, it was kind of like timing of the right time in my life. It was the right person that I had the conversation with, who was the catalyst. It was kind of like the book is, a reason for the book. So there was like 3 different catalysts. I was like, all right, let's do it.
And you had to be open, clearly, to be able to even process that. And
I got to be ready. I got to be open to see what's possible.
love it, love it. Okay, are you ready for a few rapid fire questions?
Do it.
Pirates or ninjas, which is tougher?
Tougher?
Yes.
I would say tougher would be pirates.
Why?
Because they live on a ship for months, and that's miserable.
No, it's not. I lived on a ship for a year, and it wasn't miserable. Not a ship.
But you were at bay. These are out like in the middle of the ocean, like no
True.
land.
True.
You can't see you can't see land. I mean, it'd be miserable.
So you are one of the only people who has said pirates, and not only for just interviewing, but this is a question that I think a lot about in my life, and I have for years. And pirates, they just don't get the attention they deserve and the cred. But thank you for that. I really appreciate it because I'm a pirate girl. Oh, I don't know about that. Pirates have more fun.
I think I'd rather be a ninja. I think it just sounds cooler. But you said tougher. So
Yeah, I did
I
say
think
tougher.
pirates are
All right.
way tougher, I think.
And they have more fun.
They probably do have some fun.
All right.
They drink a lot and they party a lot, yeah.
So speaking of drinking, you don't drink at all, do you?
I've never been drunk or under the influence or whatever you call it. I've never felt tipsy. I'll have like a Bailey's on the rocks every now and then,
That's
and
right.
like a sip of like tequila or something every now and then, like once every 6 months or something. Or like I was at my buddy's wedding this last week and I had like not even like a half a shot of tequila. It was like a sip. Yeah, I've just never been inspired or called forward to get drunk or to drink. I don't have anything against it. Like my friends do it all the time. But I just choose to be aware of my surroundings as opposed to unaware. And I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like I would make better decisions. Like I'm already outrageous and already outgoing enough that I don't need to let
amplify
more
it.
loose. I just don't need to let loose. I'm already loose. I'm not like uptight or uncomfortable going up and saying hi to anyone at a club or a bar or whatever. And I don't feel uncomfortable in situations. And so everything people tell me like, well, it's fun. Well, it's more social. What's this? I'm like, okay, but I feel fine already in that situation. Or I don't need a stimulant to have more fun. Like I outdance anyone if they don't think I'm having fun. Like people think I'm drunk on life because I'm just so for me, and then the effects that it has on your body, man. Even when I have like a Bailey's on ice for a night, like I just feel it. I'm just like, it just doesn't feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to speak and my vision is to have a healthy lifestyle, it just doesn't make sense to put poison in my body. I already eat candy and that's poison already. So I'm like, why add to it?
Pub
And even
shakes.
Gary Vayner, yeah, I mean, I already have vices with food that I don't need to add more to it. And, Gary Vaynerchuk's just hit me up the other day. He's like, hey, man, will you buy some of this wine thing that I'm doing? I'm like, I'll buy some for my team. He's like, you need to get into this. Like, finally, you need to start drinking. I'm like, no, I don't. It's like, I don't need to start doing something that's bad for me. I understand that it's fun and there's some health benefits to wine or whatever, but I'm like, for me, it just doesn't make sense.
It's interesting because I have always respected that about you. And I think it's, you're okay with feeling things, that's why I haven't drank in, 5 months or so it's been since I've had a drink, but I think that that's my craving just to make sure I'm feeling everything. And man, I feel good. But it's, I hit it hard in Vegas for a while. It was interesting, a little tough on the soul at times.
Well, I think I've experienced a lot of suffering personally through my 20s, and even I'm 33 now. Even now, there's days, weeks, months where I feel a lot of emotion and suffering. And I think the easy thing would be to like take something to help relieve the pain, but it could probably get me out of the situation a little faster. In some situations, obviously, it's just a Band-Aid for a lot of people, and they're not happy afterwards anyways. But I just want to feel everything. I want to feel it. I mean, I don't want to suffer. I don't want to feel sad or lonely or any of these things, but I want to be able to experience it so I can understand it and move through it and learn and grow. I feel like if I don't have the pain, then I'm not going to grow. I feel like because I've experienced the suffering that I have or the pain that I have, I've been able to get on the other side and say, wow, look how much stronger I am from experiencing that much pain. And now I can take on more of this. Like, bring it on, bring it to me. Like, any situation, let's go. And if I can't handle it and I suffer for a while, then, oh, shoot, man, I couldn't take it on. That was a lot to handle. But then I get through it and I'm like, see, I can make it through the other end and I'm okay. So I think for me, it's just all learning and growth.
Hey, Coach Lewis, I think I've failed at my rapid fire.
Okay, so I probably did because
it was me. I've totally got us off. So there we go. You can buzz me. Last couple of questions. I know we have to hop. What keeps you up at night?
I go to bed pretty easily now, but I used to be up at night focused on making money because I was broke for a while and sleeping on my sister's couch. So I would stay up all night working to make sure that like I was doing everything I could to make money and save it so that I could never have that feeling of being broke again. Now I sleep a lot better. So I would say what gets me up in the morning is my vision to impact 100 million people. I'm able to sleep well now because I understand that the only way I can live in service at the magnitude I want to do over the rest of my life is if I sleep extremely well. And if I am staying up at night late, then I'm not going to get anything done during the day. So for me, it's shifting the mentality of getting quality sleep, optimizing it so that every moment in the day is intentional towards my vision.
Awesome. And what are you reading right now?
There's a book called, it's in the other room. It's called Never Split the Difference. Never Split the Difference. This is by an FBI negotiator who talks about how to essentially negotiate in anything in business, life, based on the principles of over 150 kidnappings, bank robbery negotiations that he had to do internationally with the FBI. Fascinating guy that talks about how simple questions could literally shift everything in your business opportunities or relationship opportunities or the rent you pay or how much you buy a house, a car for. There's simple questions you could use to optimize your opportunities in every negotiation.
Nice. I will link to that for sure in the show notes. And final question, what advice would you give to your younger self? And you can choose which age.
I would say that I would just say breathe, because there's so many moments in my life where I was so upset or guarded or defensive, and it just left me suffering. So I would say breathe, and that everything is temporary and it will all pass.
Good way to wrap this up. And thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours, and I love listening to your podcast. It's been an inspiration, but also just such a great learning opportunity too for me. And thanks for your friendship and just encouragement along the way with this podcast too.
Of course. Yeah. Congrats. You've had some great people on.
Thank you. And we will talk to you again soon, I hope.
I appreciate it. Yes, Amy.
I hope you found the chat with Lewis Howes as motivating as I did. He's doing important work. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?